Hey everybody, welcome to the Crit House. I'm Jeff Larson, and we have once again a superstar review team here today. We have Stella Johnson and Phil Penman, who are both Leica Akademy instructors and just amazing photographers in their own right. Phil Penman is a British-born street photographer. He resides in New York City right now, and his coverage of the September 11th World Trade Center terrorist attacks in New York City. It is included in the 9/11 Museum's permanent archive. He has been selected at one point as one of the 52 most influential street photographers. As I mentioned, he teaches at the Leica Academy, and he has a book out. His debut book is called Street. If you do not follow him on Instagram, I certainly encourage you to do so because it's some amazing work. And Stella Johnson is a photographer. She's an educator. She's really known for her passionate and honest documentary projects. She has 2 books out, and she teaches also, as I mentioned, with Leica Academy. Our photographer today is someone that I reached out to because I follow on Instagram. David Callinan is a Boston street photographer. I've been following him for a bit, and when we started off with this program, I thought he might be a good person to come on because he's got some raw talent. He sees things in an impressive way, and he interacts with people, I think, in a way that you'll see when they show the photographs that is impressive to me. But I know that he is it's a raw talent, and I think that some conversation with our esteemed professionals, Stella and Phil, might be helpful to him. So David, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you talk a little bit about your photography and yourself.
Well, I'm a barber by trade, and the beauty in it with being a barber is if I'm not having someone in my chair and working in the city, I can walk right outside. So I would have friends I would meet, people that are on the street there regularly, and I might speak with them in conversation, and that might lead to me being able to be close enough where they're desensitized to me with the camera, which these aren't any of those shots, but that's how I would practice. Because the more I did it, the more I realized I really love portraits. But if I'm going to get good at it, I need to practice, and I need people. Like without them, I can't even practice what I'm seeing. Some of these people you see here, that's not my first time meeting them, but maybe it's the first time I got a good shot of them. Other times, like him, that's the blank. He's downtown Boston all the time. He actually just told me how he survived the 3rd rail a few months ago.
Yeesh.
Wheelchair got hit on it. But I had met him at Milk Street, literally in the bathroom, as weird as it sounds, because he was just ranting and raving about something. And I said, I'm going to wait outside for this guy. And I sat there with him one summer night last year. And we spoke. He told me all about himself. I took pictures. It was very dark, so nothing really amounted. But there I broke the ice. So now when I see him again, here we go. And I use that type of technique a lot as well.
So, hey, David, I just want to say what you're doing is absolutely right. I always say to my students that you just have to keep photographing. Take your camera out for a walk. Photograph every day, make mistakes, learn from your mistakes, and continue photographing and talk to people and go back and make contact. And, obviously you do have the personality, that gift to connect with people. And maybe it's from being a barber and learning about that. And then you take it out on the street. And it's an amazing gift that you have. And everything that you said is what I tell my students to do if they want to learn about photography in a photography class. So, you're really, you're right on the money about what you're doing. My favorite pictures of yours are number 10, because I love the mystery of it when you can't see the guy's face. And I just love the lines. Go down, number 16. That's my favorite one too. Yes, because I cannot see the guy's face under the hoodie. And so it's like a, mystery, like then your viewer has to guess.
And the best part is I wish I could say like this shot was so well thought out, but I was just getting out that day. She's a teacher. No, I know, but sometimes isn't it funny how it works out like that? Like you can go out all day intentionally, not get anything.
Let's let Phil get his Word in. Phil, you see David come into a workshop, you see this work. What's your first thought? What are you gonna tell him?
First off, nice work, David. Have you ever seen something called the terminal bar?
Terminal bar?
If any of you haven't seen it, I strongly suggest go on YouTube, watch the terminal bar. It's absolute classic. The editing, everything. But the premise behind it is a barman that used to work a bar called the Terminal Bar right near Port Authority. And all he would do is do portraits of all his customers and what he would see out of his window. Kind of like you would as a barber, you photograph your customers. The portraits this guy shot, unbelievable. All the storytelling, just watch it, you will be blown away. But when I see this, it kind of, like the idea comes back to that. For me, when I'm doing portraits, believe it or not, the picture is the byproduct. It's not the important thing. Right. There's a reason why you go up to these people, right? Like, you know, what is it for you that attracts you to these people?
Well, it will be something substantial. Like, this is a guy, Alistair. I could just tell that guy with the eyes. The first time I ever went to Cambridge, he was there playing. He was there playing an instrument, so he seemed like a staple. And then I got to know him and talk to him, and I built a relationship with him. He has cool tattoos. He had the cool instrument, very rock and roll. And literally, that was my first time photographing in Harvard Square. So he looked like a gentleman to talk to. Now, going from there, every time I go to Harvard Square, I check in with Alistair. He even follows me on Instagram now. But
doesn't it make you feel better?
Oh, like, my God! Yeah, yes, that's why.
It's the conversation. Like yesterday, I was spent an hour talking with a lady and a guy on a bench who stopped me because I was walking down the street and they saw my camera. And then the next thing you know, she's telling me she's a cougar. She's you know, she basically the guy sat there playing chess on his phone with some guy in Russia. But that conversation totally lifted my day, and the picture that came out of it was just a secondary thought. Like it was that's when you get the good stuff. The good pictures are in the small moments where you're not trying to get it. It's where the camera is down and you're just talking to them and having a conversation. Right. Like you're not trying to force the issue, because a lot of time if you got a camera up here, it's like it's a barrier between the two of you.
Right.
Okay. And these people, like, they're gonna know when it's fake as well, when you're just trying to get something from them. Oh, they 100%. Know they know that. Yeah. So it's about who you are inside, and if they can read that, yeah, he's a cool guy. You know, you just genuinely concerned, or you go out the next time and you check up on them.
Oh, absolutely.
You know? That's where you get, you know, for me anyway.
Yeah, and not to cut you off, that's where I noticed, like, you get let in by people, you know, and then you get further, like I said, you might see them again in a different scenario, different circumstances. They have a cooler outfit on or whatever.
Yeah, you might find like you won't even do pictures of half the people you chat with.
Oh, I already tell that to people. I say it's not like I'm only showing an interest to get the photo, because sometimes, like I said, I got Earl of Chinatown, this guy here. I stopped and this guy, and I saw Earl. It was under the Chinatown gate. It was low light, one of those summer nights last year, and I see his glasses, and I didn't want to disturb him because there was actually someone laying on the ground that looked like they were probably on drugs. And Earl was calling 911. And I observed this from a little bit of a distance. And I thought, what a good Samaritan, you know? As much as I want his portrait, I'm not going to go and, right. You know, but instead, just to get practice, I see another gentleman that I think he looks pretty cool. And he ends up spitting poetry to me. And next thing I know, after I spent about 10, 15 minutes with him, he walks away. I look to my right, and who's coming my way? Earl of Chinatown. And that's when I got to know his story.
So David, let me ask a hard question, if I could. But so one of the criticisms that I will receive on occasion, depending on who is the subject of my image, is that some of the people are unhoused or are in a position where they're in a disadvantaged position when you're taking the picture. And so sometimes there are criticisms of photographers who are taking pictures of we'll use the word homeless,
Yeah.
and that's they will say that that's not the right thing to do. Have you heard that? And I guess let me open it up to, before you answer, David, let me open it up to Phil and to Stella to see like what their thoughts are on that particular, because they have a lot of experience in the photographic world and seeing these things. Stella, can you respond?
Of course. I feel like people who are unhoused don't have agency. They don't have any power to leave where they are on the street. And I don't think it's right that we photograph them, honestly. But I do see that some people like David will spend hours talking to people and getting to know them. And so they're just not another, unhoused person, a homeless person, okay? I do find it difficult, let me say that. I personally would never do that, photograph somebody. I was living in LA at Venice Beach last winter, and there's a lot of encampments, a lot of homeless people there. And I would never think about photographing them. I would rather find a character who is, there are plenty of characters, and it doesn't have to be somebody who's down and out on their luck. If they don't have a job, or they have mental illness, or they don't, or the housing is too expensive, whatever it is. And there's a lot of reasons for it. So honestly, I would stay away from homeless people.
So
personally.
Phil, what's your thought?
I see it where a lot of people just photograph people sleeping at night. I know many homeless people. My wife's done documentary on a friend of hers that was homeless, and it didn't start off that way. So we got to watch the transition of a young woman to being evicted to living in Central Park. So I've seen all this play out and how it can affect the mind. The CIA conspiracies start coming out, all of that. When I was working on the street, those were the people that I would speak to, because it was a lot of the time I find in life, when someone wants a conversation from me, they're trying to get something out of me. So the only real conversations I can ever have are with people that are either on the street or people that I used to know from when I worked on the street, or having a conversation with some woman and her husband. So, and like I said, half the time I don't photograph. It's just I engage in conversation.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't feel right. And it's like, well, what's the end game here? It's like, so you're going to have a whole catalog of homeless people. The only time it really annoyed me was during the pandemic, where it was like nobody was talking about it. And I got so angry that it was like, that was a personal project for me, whereas like all the people I knew, I went out there and we chat, and it would be, well, here's my story. So here's the portrait, and this is how I got to this point. And it was like the only story that was about homeless at the time of the pandemic was how they were messing up the subway at night. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. No one's even discussing the story. And it was so frustrating for me. And luckily we have outlets that we can get our work to get the work out there. And they weren't even they're telling everyone else to stay at home and wear, they weren't even giving these people masks, nothing. Whereas in the UK they had a totally different approach to it. And it's like, no, this is a time when you tell a story.
Yes.
So there's time and a place.
Yes, and that is a humane response that you have. I'm saying to go out on the street and photograph somebody just because it may win you an award in a contest is not something that
it's the lowest of the low.
I know, but
that's not a personal gain.
Yeah, that's not what you're doing, and that your wife's friend went from being, housed to unhoused. You know, that's an incredibly important story to tell, because there, but for the grace of God, go any of us, okay? So yes, but just to go out and see a shape on the street and, oh, let me, because it's easy. If somebody's just sitting on the street, they're not moving, and it looks, you know, exotic, you know?
Oh.
Okay. But there's a lot of that, Phil. That's the problem.
No, I see it with people that I take out, and I'm like, you know, what the hell, you know, what are you doing?
Right.
There's this thing, like this British guy, Tommy, that I know, he's been on the street for a while. He would tell me that they could hear the shutters going when they're sleeping.
Oh,
So, you know, they're just lying there on the street and someone's above them taking pictures. You know, come on. Like they don't have anywhere to
A
go.
lot of
That's why
people, I don't even think
You
they know what they're
can't.
taking a picture of, you know? I think some people have a big confusion. I think they saw a person in distress or unhoused, as Jeff put it, and they go, oh, people like that. And then they put on their homeless detector, for lack of a better word, and think, homeless person, good photograph. And that's not the case. And it's like Stella said, if you're just looking for somebody in a vulnerable state, no, that's not what it's about. But and much like you said, Phil, like there's a story there and it's different. You had friends, you saw your wife do that. Like I have a friend, Manny, right? He's always around the neighborhood. He's unhoused, but he has a son that cares for him and his wife. Jeff, it's the first picture you ever posted of me with the couple kissing. What was that, a couple years ago? And they're on the street. I know their whole story. This man, so like when you, it's tough to categorize things like, but because there are social cues, right? When you say homeless are off limits, that's kind of like a stereotypical scapegoat sentence if you really think about it, right? Because if you have homeless people as friends and they like that you take photos, should you not take their photo? I had a technically a homeless guy, Manny. He's just a character. He plays his guitar, he sings, he plays his harmonica. He'll give me money. He'll get mad if I don't take it. He'll give me $4. He came in the shop yesterday. I shaved his face. I'm a barber. You know, so if he wants me to, he gave me a video camera. That's what's so crazy about street photography. You don't know the stories you're going to encounter. But I do not like the idea that you see the trend, like as the Stella was saying, like I go, you know, some people only think like that person's worth a photograph because they're actually in rough shape and homeless. I know they don't even have an idea of what they're trying to do. If I'm taking a picture of my guy, Manny, some of his stuff might look rough. He might have his stubble, but I want you to see his larger than life self that's underneath all that, that's shining out, because he's such a character. He has such a charisma. That's showing a certain level of strength because you know what? I have a bad day. I go home, I take a shower, I go to bed. This guy's sleeping underneath someone's fire escape. And I'll see his son pull up sometimes and toss him in the back of a car. Of course, I know him, but there's a level of strength there that you got to see like, wow, how are you carrying on? But it's not just about, hey, look at this terrible circumstance. That's going to make me a great photograph. That's actually
even the way you photograph them though, like the position. So when you're doing a portrait of someone, just the position, like if you're shooting above somebody and you're looking down on them, it's like you think that you're bigger than them,
right?
Or you're putting them down. Whereas like if you're usually if you're doing a portrait of someone, you're level with them,
right?
Because you're on the same playing field. Or if you could go even lower, you're emboldening. You know, you're making them bigger and you're making them something. Like a portrait could be done where it's a positive,
right?
You know,
the guy with the glasses, the reflection, the blank, you would never know he has one leg and he's in a wheelchair.
Yeah, that's some of the strongest points. You don't need to see that. Like
some people think you have to exploit that. Thank you.
No, so if you for like next steps, like your photography, you know, a lot of its stuff's very tight. I noticed some of the wider stuff, you got to start thinking about your backgrounds more. Okay, so like things like that, it would have been so much stronger if they weren't there on the right. Like, so image number 8. Okay, if you were in a little bit closer and you lost those 2 women to the right, just the shot of the lone guy with the bar there, that would have been so much more powerful. So when you start doing your wider stuff, you got to think a lot more. You know, it's one thing where, like, if you've got lots of things going on in a frame and it all kind of works, you know, even like this shot here, number 15, even just like the lettering behind the guy's face on the guy on the right, try to lose that, try to move and lose that if you can. So it's all going to be very quick. And like to Stella's point, go out there, shoot all the time. Because if you're not shooting, you're not learning. You need to make as many mistakes as you can. Because if you're not making mistakes, again, you're not learning. So just get out there, keep shooting. You know, keep doing what you're doing. And half the time, the most important thing is knowing when not to shoot.
Phil, thanks for bringing us back to suggestions. Stella, I'll give you the last word on what's your last thought. What is this next step that you think David should be taking with his photography as he leaves this conversation?
He needs to clean up. He needs to clean up his backgrounds. I think what Phil said is very important. Like, that's a very clean image. I would just continue on his path. I think he's doing a great job. You know, for me, if somebody is photographing every day and understanding, you go out and you photograph for a couple of hours and you get nothing, you turn around and you make a photograph and bang, that's the image. So we never know. And you're open to that chance, David.
Absolutely.
I do think that what Phil said is really important. Photograph all the guys who come into your barbershop. What a gift. You don't even have to leave.
Yeah, I'm lucky. I could get some out of the barbershop, but there is a train station down the street. I photograph a lot of young guys, but that is a great idea because I've often wondered a concept, and meanwhile I have a concept right in front of me.
Exactly.
Trust me, watch Terminal Bar.
Yes, I appreciate
you'll
that.
You'll be blown away.
Terminal Bar, you said, right?
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
I'm gonna link to that if I can find it at the end of this video. So listen, thank you all for participating. David, thanks for coming on. Especially interesting to me because we walk the same streets and photograph a lot of the same people. So I think it's a fascinating conversation. Once again, Stella Johnson is a Leica instructor for the Leica Academy. She has a workshop coming up, Seeing Revere Beach, July 29th through the 31st here in the Boston area. And Phil Penman has a show going up in DC on August the 4th. Washington, DC's Leica Gallery. Life During the Pandemic can be seen at that show. And again, I'm going to try to link to that Terminal Bar video here for you to all look at, since it's relevant to the conversation we just had. Thank you all for watching the Crit House.